There is one light of being, one clear voice, one divine mind. It is the presence of the perfect loving spirit that expresses through all that is. Every thought and experience is sourced in this one light. Its clear voice is ever available. Its divine mind is all-knowing. I am included in this one mind. All of my thoughts and feelings and experiences are taking place according to the perfection and wisdom of the one. Its voice of wisdom guides us, and its light illuminates the way before us. Through the power of one light within us, our mind and our thoughts are focused. All that I need to know and all that we need to do comes easily to us, and we recognize it and act whenever and wherever it is appropriate. I affirm for us absolute clarity as we stay in tune with the loving heart of the divine spirit that lives within us and guides us on our way. Our intuition is strong, and its voice speaks to us and to our every need. I give thanks for our lives and for the perfection unfolding in our very being. I give thanks for the way the divine life is perfectly expressed through each of us today. And I release this prayer into spiritual law that does its works unto us, manifesting its perfection through each and every one of us. And so it is. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Who will give us the definition this morning?
Spring.
Okay, Spring, go ahead.
Humor. Ludicrous or absurdly incongruous. A funny or amusing quality. The mental faculty of discovering, expressing, or appreciating the ludicrous or absurdly incongruous. The ability to be funny or to be amused by things that are funny. Something that is or is designed to be comical or amusing. An often temporary state of mind imposed especially by circumstances.
And I'm sure that that was from the dictionary, even though I didn't put it down. So I'm sure that that's where it was from. So who's got the quote for us this morning?
I'll do the quote.
Thank you.
A sense of humor is needed armor. Joy in one's heart and some laughter on one's lips is a sign that a person down deep, excuse me, has a pretty good grasp of life. Hugh Sidney.
And who's got the Bible reading this morning?
I will.
Okay, go ahead, Sandy.
Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart makes the body healthy, but a broken spirit dries up bones.
You know,
No.
and if you stop and think of how long ago the Proverbs were written, and the opening thing, a merry heart makes the body healthy, you know, and we know to this day that laughter gets the endorphins going in us and it makes us healthy. And so I just kind of look at that when I found that quote, that Bible verse, it was like, yes. I found 2 or 3 articles actually on Christ and humor, and this one is entitled, "Do We Miss the Humor of Christ When We Read the Gospels?" There are numerous passages which are practically incomprehensible when regarded as sober prose, but which are luminous once we become liberating from the gratuitous assumption that Christ never joked. Once we realize that Christ was not always engaged in pious talk, we have made an enormous step on the road to understanding. Did humor come into the universe as the result of sin? No. As I share in my book, Happiness, we have a sense of humor because as his image bearers, we are similar to God who enjoys laughter. The Dictionary of Biblical Imagery says Jesus was a master of wordplay, irony, satire, and often with an element of humor intermixed. Jesus makes many serious points in humorous way. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, he asks, or figs from thistle? People who worked the ground in that culture surely smiled as the self-evident answer when encountering a verse such as this one, which instructed us not to cast your pearls before the swine. A modern reader might wonder why anyone would even think to do such an outlandish thing, but that's the whole point. No sane person would. Therefore, Jesus was saying, don't do the spiritual equivalent of that ridiculously stupid thing. Jesus told people, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. No one would do anything so obviously self-promoting. Instead, they draw attention to themselves by walking slowly and piously, making their money clearly visible. These self-congratulatory actions, which Jesus characterized as sounding a trumpet, undoubtedly produced numerous smiles, smirks, and chuckles. Can't you imagine folks looking at each other with amazement and nervous glee when Jesus said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanliness." Jesus was not telling jokes, but painting mental pictures with humorous, satirical sting. Think of the religious leaders' outrage when Jesus said, "The harlots go into the kingdom of God before you." Then think of the approving smiles of the poor and oppressed in the crowds who finally saw someone unafraid to confront these pseudo-spiritual false shepherds. Jesus referred to the shrewd and ruthless political leader Herod as that fox. Since a fox is cunning, this may appear to be a compliment, but it certainly wouldn't have been lost on the crowd that those pointy-eared varmints were nuisances, not terrors. Jesus was poking fun at a vicious, immoral, murderous tyrant by comparing him not to a lion or a bear, but to a fox. Imagine people going home and telling their friends, "You won't believe it, what Jesus just called Herod." Jesus said, "And then when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that they are fasting may be seen by others." Do not look gloomy would be a great mirror or memory verse for some churchgoers. The self-righteously religious of Jesus's day like to call attention to their fasting by rubbing ashes on their faces to make them look gaunt and deprived. The more miserable, the more spiritual, or so they supposed. Christ made fun of them for it, and they didn't like it. But no doubt many of his listeners enjoyed hearing the self-righteous leaders. Consider when Jesus, why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Surely the ridiculous picture of a log sticking out of a man's eyes produced not only a sense of conviction, but also broad smiles. Elton Trueblood recounted how he noticed Jesus's humor for the first time. He was reading Matthew 7 aloud when his young son burst into laughter at Jesus's word about the log in the eye. Until then, Trueblood had failed to see Christ as Christ's obvious wit. Those who heard Jesus speak knew his keen humor, and they were endeared to him. The humor of Jesus is far more apparent if we understand his culture and engaging personality. There's nothing disrespectful about noticing many of Jesus's statements are, by design, happily outrageous. I loved that article because I've always said, hey, Jesus had a sense of humor, but everybody kind of goes, no, he did not. And I loved that article because it explained that. So our affirmation for the day is, I am always able to see humor in all situations. And then our practice is to give 3 strangers a compliment, whatever it may be. Find 3 strangers. If you don't see 3 people today that are strangers to you, maybe do that tomorrow, but try and find 3 people to give a compliment today. And our journaling begins with what I love most about humor, and go ahead and begin. Okay, bring it to a close. Who would like to share what they wrote this morning? Michael, go.
What I love most about humor is the way it makes me feel, sort of a tickling the insides burst of energy, involving my entire body, oftentimes, at times unnoticed by those around me, other times overtly obvious. So much physical gyrations, it results in those around me to convulse in a seeming contagious wave. The joy of my own self that I've noticed with humor expands to embrace, engage, and show itself. That humorous funny bone tingle all around me. How I love to share a good laugh with others. Like a yawn, laughter serves up the possibility to invite others to join in.
Mhm. Anyone else want to share what they wrote this morning?
I'll share. This is Spring.
Okay, then I'll get you, Ron.
What I love most about humor is its ability to cut through tension, anxiety, hypocrisy, and piety like butter through a knife. We gotta laugh to keep from crying. My eldest brother, if you go any slower, you'll have to speed up to stop when he's waiting for me. Like historical fiction, which can say so much and touch so many buttons, not just funny, by making one laugh. Expands the lungs, the heart, the lesson, and the speech. Nourishes the bloodstream, releases endorphins. By putting words into someone's mouth, a joke can cause uproar with its incongruous but witty comparisons and contrasts. I'm watching my share of comedy on HBO these days. True Black humor reminding me of my roots in inner city Detroit and with playmates and escapades. Humor can be raw, biting, itchy, incontinence causing, and downright upsetting, but it reminds me to laugh and appreciate all of my moments of life. It's contagious too.
You got a few chuckles there, which you couldn't see, Spring. Ron, don't forget to unmute yourself.
Thank you. All right. Humor. It lightens the load. It's the best medicine. It lifts and separates. That's humor right there. As it is an attitude of deeper thinking, awareness, and creativity. Humor causes us to stop, think, and smile, which spreads like wildfire in a good way, reducing stress and giving us pause to reflect. Seriously, enjoy the humor of your life.
I have to share mine this morning, you guys. What I love about humor is it makes us laugh, even if for only a moment. It makes us focus on something other than ourselves. Laughter and humor makes us healthier human beings. One of my fondest memories of humor is a Saturday afternoon, long ago, sitting at a kitchen table with my family. Ken, my brother, loved opera, and NPR always had opera on Saturday afternoon. Dad couldn't stand it anymore, and finally asked in obvious dismay and mental pain, "Do we have to listen to that anymore?" Ken quickly responded, "You just have to understand the story, Dad." He proceeded to explain that it was about a young girl who fell in love with a man who asked her mother for her hand in marriage. The mother did not approve, and so she sent her to the mountains to live with a shepherd. Without missing a beat, I said, "And he rammed her." And then Ken replied, "And she cried, you." My brother and I played with each other's words all the time. And I couldn't, anyway, I had to share that. It's one of my favorite stories of my brother and I together.
Thank you.
Oh. Ron, it's your turn to pray us out this morning.
Oh, okay.
I've been keeping track of everybody praying us out, so it's your turn.
Sure. We'll settle for a moment in your breath, in oneness and wholeness. We give thanks for sharing and learning. We honor our spiritual being as individuals and community. Our day continues in light and love and humor, knowing our truth. We release our concerns into the universal mind and say together, and so it is.
It is. Thank
And
you, Ron.
so it is.
Have a humorous and a wonderful day, everybody. It was nice to hear
Okay.